Poem. This is a poem about a time of day when the light still seems to mean it. But shadows from roofs and other pitched, impermeable things have begun their colonial sweep. This is a poem about a time of year when clear, high-pitched light, on golden but suggesting warmth, makes the brown, brittle rose vines look suddenly far from soulful.
Born in 1974 in Boston, Massachusetts, Kate Colby is a modern American poet and essayist and has published 6 books. She received her undergraduate degree from Wesleyan University. She always knew she wanted to be a writer, but did not start writing poetry until she was in her mid-20s. Colby is not only a writer, but also a dancer. To her, these two disciplines are similar, each one providing inspiration for the other. She says, "Both dance and writing are, for me, in one respect, about exploring ostensibly boundless creative possibilities within strict physical and linguistic parameters, and whether, or the extent to which, any of those parameters can be exceeded." Poetry is also related to dance in that both are choreographed to be visually effective. Objectivism, a term coined by the poet William Carlos Williams in the 1930s, was used to describe a movement in which emphasis was placed on viewing poems as objects that could be analyzed in terms of structural features, examining the mechanical components and construction of the poem. Lorine Niedecker, the only woman associated with the objectivist poets, was a source of inspiration for Colby. Additionally, Colby uses what is known as poetic torque in structuring many of her poems, a technique she adopted from Robert Creeley, an American poet and author of more than 60 books, who heavily influenced her writing style with regard to structure. In physics, a torque is a twisting force that causes rotation. Similarly, in poetry, a writer can create a torque-like effect by using enjambment, causing the reader's eyes to follow a curved, twisted path across the page, as shown in Creeley's poem, "I Know a Man." Colby's poem, "Inside Job," demonstrates her use of this technique. In this poem, she explores women's lack of recognition in history. Colby is a feminist and a strong proponent of gender equality and desires to end socially constructed ideas of gender roles.
Inside job. The difference between shade and shadow is the former you inhabit. The difference in magma and lava is the same to the core. I've inspired some love songs, but never a history text. Please, write me back. I'm dying. You see, the thing is, shadows can't be black when they're made of light.
Not only does Colby integrate scientific phenomena, like the idea of torque, into the structure of her poems, but also the content of some of her poems reflects her interest in science, including physics, neuroscience, and linguistics. Colby explores the science of nature in her poems, but in a more organic and less scientific way. For instance, one common occurrence in her poetry is light. She explores the science of light, but also the nuances of light in a more metaphorical sense. In her poem, Slide, she examines how light, something generally associated with illumination and clarity, ironically leaves people in the dark. In this poem, she also examines the themes of exploration and newness. This pertains to Colby's own life. She grew up in Massachusetts, but moved to California, and though she loved it there, she always felt that her true home was on the East Coast.
Slide. You and I inhabit thresholds, clinging to neither here nor there, and this is a threshold of no relief, of interrogative light and obviated shadows, of questions flattened between clapboard slides, in laboratories of hanging frames, in a potential frame. The next moment slumps beneath the shadow of the overhang. They call it earthquake weather, a day like this, of reflected light and leveling heat of no relief, of corners around which and angles of incidents jellied in consomme, molded in amber lunches of tea and impossibles, no incidents or tension, no reflection, no striations, rather a bangle, a broken shoelace, and what are we going to do about that hair? We were in a boat. You were navigating and I was tending the lines which flew from my hands, flapping like live wires on the wind. You watched the shadow of our sail on the water, through the light reflected in your face, conducted a depth sounding. You went under but not overboard, swam away to plot reliefs of ocean floors. It is far too shallow here to die.